Well, good morning and welcome to the second annual, today virtual, Lehigh Valley Internship Summit presented by Highmark Blue Shield. My name is Carrie Ann Galinas and I'm Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and Research at the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. We're so glad that you've joined us today to learn more about remote internships. I'm sure that you will take away new ideas and beneficial tips from our speakers on how to create a remote internship program, how to engage with interns when you can't work face-to-face, and how to make this experience a success for both your business or organization and the interns who work with you. We're grateful for the sponsors who made this event possible today. Highmark Blue Shield is our presenting sponsor for the Internship Summit, and we appreciate their support. We would also like to recognize our other sponsors, East Stroudsburg University, Muhlenberg College, and Northampton Community College for their support in making this event possible. Their sponsorship enabled us to offer this event in today's unique circumstances. Additionally, I would like to also thank Penn State Lehigh Valley for hosting the event, guiding us through the technological logistics, and for contributing their expertise. This event and the Lehigh Valley's talent initiatives are a collaborative endeavor championed by the Education and Talent Supply Council, local employers, the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley, our region's colleges and universities, career and technical schools, K-12 systems, and LVEDC. The creation of this year's Internship Summit was built from the ideas and insights and time and effort of all of our colleges and universities' career development professionals who work with students, your potential interns, every day. This group also contributed to the creation of a Lehigh Valley Internship Toolkit, which includes a guide to guide you through the process of creating or expanding an internship program, as well as a directory of all of the contacts of the relevant career development professionals here in the Lehigh Valley. This will be available on LVEDC's website shortly. A couple of quick logistics for today's event. The presenters will each share about their work with remote internships, followed by a Q&A. You can see at the bottom of your screen, you have the option to type your questions for the presenters in the chat box there. We'll get to as many questions as possible today, and you're welcome to contact me if you'd like any follow-up after today's event. Our first presenter, Stacey Halliday, is an HR recruiting specialist and program manager of university relations and college recruiting with 30 years of HR experience working at Air Products and Chemicals, Inc., a Fortune 500 world-leading industrial gases company. Stacey specializes in talent acquisition and is responsible for hiring and coaching top university candidates. Stacey uses her positive attitude to encourage others to learn, grow, and succeed. Stacey's inspired daily by her creative Air Products family and the hardworking and enthusiastic students that she meets throughout her day. And Stacey, you may begin.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So I have a couple slides I'm going to share. I'm just going to talk through a few things about our program, a little bit about the adjustments that we had to make. So we'll just jump in and get started because we want to allow some time for Q&A. So just a little overview about Air Products. If you have not heard of us before, you'll see a slide here that illustrates a little bit about the organization. So we are an industrial gas producer, and we operate in over 50 countries. We are headquartered in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we have about 17,000 employees. So we basically touch everyday life. You're not going to see our label on it, but we certainly are a leader in helium supply, hydrogen, oxygen, for example. So that's why we'll impact your daily life. So you'll see a little snapshot here of our organization. The one thing that I'll add before I jump into my slides is that We do have a pretty robust intern program, co-op program, and also a rotational program for recent graduates. So I am going to touch a lot on what we have done with our summer internship program. And as I jump into the next slide, I'll let you know that for our internship program, we did move forward with our program with about 67 summer interns. So there was a lot of work that we had to put in place. For our virtual summer, we really we met a lot, and we felt that we had the need to flex. So with 67 interns that are scattered throughout the U.S., primarily most of them are in Allentown, but we do have quite a few that go to our plant locations. It really required us to think, how do we design a successful remote internship and co-op program, and what considerations do we have to take into account? So we felt the need to engage our key stakeholders to discuss how we'll manage that virtual summer experience. So it's all about engaging, providing a great summer experience. So for those of you that have an internship program, you know how important it is to really engage with students and make sure that they feel comfortable going into a company that they're going to have a great experience. So we needed to have a lot of dialogue around, what do the students need from us? What do we need to do to make sure that they are feeling that they're connecting with us, that they're having a great experience? And we also had a lot of conversation about, can we provide them a great experience? And it turns out we could, and we'll get to that in a minute. So we needed to determine, what do the students need from us? They needed equipment, of course. So we had a lot of dialogue with our IT group about laptops, headsets, keyboards, monitors. What do the students need in order to work remotely? We needed to really plan through training. What training modules can we do remotely? What do we need them to learn when they first start with us? What kind of resources and support do they need, not only from me, from managing the program and ensuring that they're onboarded and that they're attending events, but what other resources do they need? So we had a lot of dialogue about that. Communications were key. So we had a lot of discussions with our managers, with the interns themselves, with our key leaders in the organization, just to make sure we had commitment from everyone in order to make this happen. We also needed to determine what the students needed from home and from school. We had to ensure that they had a reliable Wi-Fi, that they had a quiet place to work. So we had a lot of conversations with them just to ensure, where can we ship laptops? Do they have a place where they feel comfortable working, that they have a consistent Wi-Fi, etc. Next slide, please. So in order for us to create this virtual experience, obviously it was very important for us to benchmark with other companies. So we did that a lot. We participated in a lot of meetings, local organizations that were considering whether or not to have their internship programs. I participated in a lot of NACE activities, contacted a lot of companies just one-on-one, had dialogue with them, read a lot of articles, because we really wanted to make sure that this was going to be a successful experience. While we met with those hiring managers, I met with each of the 67 managers. And yes, it was a lot of time, but it really paid off. I cannot tell you how much that experience of just chatting with them about, what was the workload going to look like? Did they have enough projects available for them to work remotely? Could we have and maintain frequent communications with the interns? And how often could the managers meet with the interns? We also included all of our HR business partners as well in those meetings, because we wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, all have the same thought, all have the same commitment. From that, and having all of the commitment from those key stakeholders, we created a virtual onboarding guide. And we thought this was a really critical piece to how we were laying out this program, because in that onboarding guide, we asked managers to consider a lot of factors. Again, how often were they communicating? What was the scope of the work? How much training could they really provide virtually? And we also asked them to engage the interns in different ways. So including them in any type of meeting that maybe the intern wasn't a key member of that project, but wow, what a great learning experience it would be to hear how decisions are being made. So that onboarding guide was key in asking the managers how to onboard the interns from a paperwork standpoint, all the way into just training, guidance, and staying connected during that full 11 weeks. We coordinated the laptop shipments with our IT team, so I wanted to highlight that because I didn't want to underestimate the time that it took to do that and just the importance of that. Because yes, it's easy to ship a laptop somewhere, but to put really great instructions so that the students could load the laptop, what they needed to do on their first day, all of that was key. We also completed all their new hire forms virtually. So for everyone on the call that handles onboarding paperwork, you know how critical this piece was. So for I-9s, we used videos. We did a lot of online signing and commenting on forms. So that was something we needed to plan for in advance as well, because now we have 67 students that we need to communicate one-on-one to get some of their I-9 information on video. We also provided each student with a welcome ambassador. So what that means is we asked individuals that are on our career development program, so that's our recent graduate program, so they have a rotational program. We asked each of them to become a welcome ambassador for the interns, so they could have that other person to go to ask questions, to engage in dialogue. A lot of our individuals on the career development were prior interns, so that worked out really well, and we got great positive feedback from the interns about that experience, and also from those on the program, on the career development program, because it was a great mentoring opportunity for them as well. Next slide. In terms of engagement, so I mentioned early on that it's really key that the interns felt engaged, felt that they were part of the Air Products community. So we felt our challenge really was to highlight our products, our safety culture, our D&I, and our collaborative work environment virtually. So we took on that challenge, we accepted that challenge, and we prepared a lot for that. So one of the key things that we did was we offered a week-long orientation for all of the interns and co-ops to introduce them to Air Products. So I scheduled a variety of guest speakers to provide insight into our safety philosophy and our business, our supply chain, etc. So it was a great opportunity for them to engage with leaders their first week of employment, to really learn about the company and feel as though they were connected immediately. Throughout the 11-week program, we offered 26 summer activities. Plus, we also did mini projects, and the interns had coffee chats amongst themselves. So they felt like they were connecting with each other. They're very used to having lunch together when we're on site. So we really wanted to create that type of environment so that they could share success stories, talk about their projects. So we really played a big part in making sure that they were connecting, collaborating, and feeling as though they were engaged in the organization through all these activities. Next slide, please. The big key is building those connections, feeling as though during that 11-week they really understood what we were all about, understood the types of roles that we have to offer them. So we had frequent check-ins with the students. We stayed connected throughout the whole summer. I told them, you can IM me, you can call me, you can text me, you can email me, whatever they needed in terms of connecting, asking questions, they could certainly do that. We had a lot of networking, scheduling one-on-one informational chats. We encouraged all the students to talk to a variety of people throughout the organization. And we also connected students with as many members of our career development program as possible so that they could really learn about, after the internship, what does full-time employment look like within the organization. So building those connections, networking was a real key factor for us. And when I did all the exit interviews with the summer interns, this was one of the things that stood out from them, that they really took away a great value, a connection, just feeling like they were a part of the company, even though they were working remotely. Next slide. So the virtual experience. So when we think about that whole virtual experience, those key words that jump out to me are engagement, learning. So this is a learning opportunity for them. We wanted to make sure that even though they were home, they still had all the tools, the resources, all of the online training that they needed. And then you'll also see exploring. So exploring the organization, connecting with their mentor, having fun. We wanted them to have fun too. So even though maybe they were sitting in their room with their laptop, we still wanted them to have fun and engage with the organization. So this word cloud kind of summarizes what were the key things for us. And obviously the learning, connecting, engagement are some things that stood out on top for us. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
You're welcome.
So much great information. I know that it's definitely being appreciated by everybody on the line, and there'll probably be plenty of questions as we continue and have some Q&A at the end. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to shift to Alyssa Lapano, who's Creative Services Manager at Discover Lehigh Valley. A native to the region, Alyssa returned to the Lehigh Valley in 2018 after gaining professional experience in previous roles at Zacky's Fine Wine, Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, and the Journal News. Alyssa is an adventurous home cook, an occasional photographer, a wine lover, and a sports fan. She's a graduate of Syracuse University's SI Newhouse School of Public Communications and is pursuing a project management certificate at Muhlenberg College.
Thank you, Carrie Ann, and thank you for having me on this panel. That was some great information from Stacey. What a large scale they have, 60-something interns, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my perspective on a much smaller scale at Discover Lehigh Valley. So really quickly to introduce you, Discover Lehigh Valley, you'll hear me refer to it as DLV. We're a destination marketing organization, and so we're a nonprofit, a 501c6. And our job is to promote and market the region as a place to visit and drive business and therefore money and all that great stuff. And so we are funded by hotel tax dollars. That's a significant portion of our budget. And as you can imagine, the past 6, 7, however long we're in this pandemic, people have not been staying in hotels. So our budgets took a huge hit. And we were already a very small organization, and we're currently a staff of 7. So maintaining our summer internship became imperative. I needed the help, and so we had to figure out how to go from an in-person internship to a virtual internship. And in case you're wondering what is creative services, that's kind of an umbrella term for anything related to graphic design, advertising, marketing. So any kind of design projects of digital ads, billboards you see on 22, our website, discoverlehighvalley.com. And we also do quite a bit of photography and video gathering because we need great artwork to be able to market Lehigh Valley. So I'm going to give you some practical tips to help create a positive and productive experience. As I said before, really small team at Discover Lehigh Valley, and we have no HR department. So I kind of just had to figure this out, and the next slides will show you how we did that. So for me, doing the prep work was so important. And it was prep work not only for myself, but for the intern. So because this intern fell under the umbrella of creative services and marketing, I had the intern follow all our social channels. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and that might seem really obvious, but it was a really natural way to give exposure to our voice, our look, our style. This way he had an idea of what kind of photography we used, what our messaging is to the region and outside the region as well. It also helps expose him to our branding. So how we use our logo, how we use the Made Possible in Lehigh Valley logo as well. So this was a really important way to get him exposed to that voice without me having to do formal training on that once the internship started. And for me, the most important thing to prep was a list of projects. And so I basically had a really big spreadsheet of kind of a dream list of projects that he could get to this summer. And I really spent time detailing those projects, providing file locations, reference projects he could look at. And so having that list of projects was tremendously helpful in me being efficient, assigning him projects throughout the course of his internship. And of course, things came up that he worked on besides that list, but having that ready to go was essential. So for the first week or two, for me, it was really helpful to, and it seems kind of funny, I guess, but I made the interns' workday shorter in the beginning. And this kind of took pressure off of me. Obviously, I think we're all doing 15 jobs at once. And so it kind of took the pressure off of me to fill a full 9 hours. And I think it was also a little less overwhelming for the intern as well. Screen time, it becomes exhausting. And so that shorter workday in the beginning was really great. As far as training or orientation sessions, keep them short. And I advise to do no more than 2 per day. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. This kind of, helped with that fatigue factor again. And also, don't be afraid to have them do independent tasks. So, something as simple as dig through our website, read through our outdoor recreation section of Discover Lehigh Valley. Have them do work that doesn't require you to be constantly hands-on in the first and second week. So this is a quick graphic representation of, this was kind of day 1, but I followed suit with this on the beginning days. So I'd have him sign on at 9 or 9:30, check email, do a quick check-in with me, and then I would do a morning orientation or training session and an afternoon. I made sure he broke for lunch, and having these 2-hour blocks was just the right amount of time. So I used these blocks to either go through technical things, where to find files, what our internal database looked like, or I would use a morning or afternoon session to introduce him to other members of the team. So I didn't do, one big welcoming Zoom to introduce him. I introduced him in small bits to 2 people, 3 people here, and then waited until we had a staff meeting to introduce him to the whole team. So I think that was just the right amount of time. And then after that afternoon session, he would have independent time to work on his projects that he'd been assigned. So on the day-to-day, after that initial week or 2, I still tried to do daily morning check-ins with him. And when I say 15 minutes, that's on the long end. Sometimes it was just a 5-minute quick chat. Sometimes we'd hop on a video call. And as the weeks progressed, we didn't have to do that exactly every morning. We kind of built up our rapport. So, but what was really helpful is that's really important to do in the beginning, because you're not sitting next to each other working. You have to make it easy for them to get in contact with you. And so during these check-ins, I would, instead of asking, after I'd explained something, instead of asking, do you have questions? I found that I was getting a more robust answer, more out of him if I asked, what are you stuck on? Or is there anything that's frustrating you right now? When you don't work right next to each other, I think there's a little bit of fear factor, and that the intern probably doesn't want to let you know that he doesn't know how to do something. So framing some questions like that kind of got the conversation going a little bit better. And, just doing these check-ins really helped create an easy communication style between us, where he wasn't scared to ask me, a stupid question, if there is even one. And also sharing screens became very helpful. I'm a trained graphic designer, so is Trey. And this was really helpful for troubleshooting design issues, or just any technical issues that he was having. So instead of having to put it in an email, what's going on, it was really quick and easy. All right, share your screen with me. I can see what the issue is with your file. Or, and then vice versa. Sometimes I would share my screen and show him, like, let's say, the proper way to put together something in Photoshop. So that sharing screens functionality became essential to us communicating. So earlier I mentioned that I prepped a nice big list of projects for the intern to work through during his summer. But I didn't give that all to him at once. We had a shared spreadsheet that we worked off of. I would assign certain projects to him and assign them his color, which we just had a simple color coding system. So basically I would kind of grab 2 to 3 projects from that master list that I had, and I would drop them into this spreadsheet that he could see. And I would try to vary them so that you'd have a long-term project and maybe like 2 short-term quick turnarounds. I think this helped him learn how to prioritize, helped his time management, and also having those long-term projects in there helped me in that I didn't have to constantly be worried, okay, does he have enough to work on? So this summer we were unable to pay our intern. And so it was really important to me to be able to, try to pay him in as many other ways as I could. So we really made an effort to connect him to our colleagues in our network. And at Discover Lehigh Valley, us interacting with the community, our partners, is so important. And so I really wanted to expose him and help build his professional network, as we all know it is so important. So when he started, we did a welcoming post on LinkedIn. We tagged his page. We tagged Moravian College's page. We wanted as many people to see this as possible. And then throughout his internship, I tried to get him out of the office, so his home, as much as possible. I tried even 1 project a week that got him out into the community, whether that was taking photos or something else, but just so he got away from his computer. And in one example is with Da Vinci Science Center. So this summer they unveiled a new exhibit, and so they had no photography for it. And so we sent Trey out and he shot some great photos. He also then shared those photos with Da Vinci Science Center. And so that also just helped him get his name in the door at Da Vinci. And they saw, his great work, and they'll remember that. And that's really important. So it didn't stop there. He then took that photography and used it to design a billboard. And that billboard is up right now on 22, on 78, on various places throughout the valley, just to promote Da Vinci, and as part of our Made Possible in Lehigh Valley campaign. So once that billboard was up, again, we shared that to our professional networks. On LinkedIn, we included it in a partner e-newsletter. And we highlighted that Trey did this, and we tagged him again. We tagged Moravian College. And so, making those networks for him is just one of the ways that I really try to reward him and expose him to those colleagues. So as far as what we did right, in addition to exposing him to our network, I think we did a good job being flexible. Since this was unpaid, I tried to be as flexible as possible with his hours. In the beginning, it was more structured, with those training sessions. But then, I was perfectly fine with him starting later one day, or he had to leave early for something. That didn't matter to me, and that was just a benefit that I was willing to extend to him. Having that big master list of prep projects was essential. Really was helpful so that there were no lulls in work. He wasn't waiting on me to supply him with something. I think our onboarding, our scheduling of training was just the right amount. Those 2 quick sessions per day, 1 hour each, that was just the right amount of time. And then I think there's kind of a thought that you have to constantly be interacting. And I think that's amplified by us all being remote. And so I think having those independent projects that don't require your interaction with the intern is super important. let them immerse themselves and don't feel like you have to constantly interact. And then thankfully, I'm super happy to report that we're able to continue the internship into the fall, and he accepted. And we're thankfully going to be able to pay him, which I'm thrilled about. And so having had a successful internship this summer has made me feel more confident about potentially bringing on more virtual interns if needed, just because I know that we could do it. And we certainly lucked out with our candidate, but I think we kind of developed the right rhythm, and overall it was a great experience.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alyssa. I hope that the information that's been shared so far today from Stacey and Alyssa has been valuable to you as you start to think about your own business and organization, and how either you have or how you're looking to host remote interns. I know that all of our college and universities partners are all looking to ensure that their students are still able to get that workplace experience with your organization, so they can really learn all of those skills that you can share with them, and grow as individuals and potentially become your future employees. So I hope that this has given you some really great places to start from. First, the vantage point of a very large employer with an existing program, to a very small employer who really had to pivot to make this work under the current circumstances. But those current circumstances with remote internships might continue to go on for the foreseeable future, regardless of the pandemic, considering now that we are working in an increasingly remote world, and looking to connect virtually on an increasing basis. So now we'd like to turn to your questions. If you haven't already, you're welcome to type your questions in the chat box, and I'll give you a couple of minutes, and then start to chat a bit with Alyssa and Stacey and learn a bit how they can help to answer your questions. Again, if we run out of time, or if you have some ideas that come to you later today, and you'd like to follow back with me, feel free to contact me, and I will either get you in touch with Stacey or Alyssa for the right answer, or help you to the best of my ability as well. Great. We have some questions coming in. So first one, were your leaders or intern supervisors used to managing a remote workforce? So were they accustomed to that? Had they done that before? Or Alyssa, in your case, had you managed a remote intern in the past? And if not, how did you prepare them to manage remote interns? Stacey, that's probably ongoing for you at Air Products. So maybe we'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. So some of the managers of our co-ops and interns do have a remote team. Not all of them, but they might have someone that works globally. So they're used to working that way, but we had quite a few that were not. So the onboarding guide, the one-on-one conversations helped tremendously with the process. And the managers were great. They really loved the intern and co-op program, so they were more than willing to figure out how best to move forward, and they were more than willing to adjust and to be flexible with what that assignment looked like. So we had a lot of conversation around how could they engage, what would it look like. They were used to having the intern sit next to them in the office, and they'd just chat throughout the day, so they had to kind of do the same thing virtually. So that we had a lot of conversations about how will it work, what will be different, what will be similar to what they're used to. But in the end, those that were not familiar with having a remote workforce, it worked out well, but it did provide, we need to provide some guidance and some help to make sure that that happened.
If I can just follow up by the same individual, one of their concerns was teaching interns how to do their job. So while you're here, can you answer that one as well?
Yeah, yeah. I think what worked well for us is that we went through that week long of onboarding. So we got them used to connecting with us regularly, used to that 8 to 5 work day, used to working, calling into the Skype meeting, the Teams meetings. So we got them kind of adjusted to the work environment and our expectations. And, it's okay to instant message your manager. It's okay to do all of those things. So kind of getting them used to how we operate in the company. We did a lot of that during their first week. And I encouraged the interns prior to them joining that if they had any questions up front, to please ask me. And I did get a lot of questions. Some of them, this was their first internship experience, and some of their first work experience. So we had a lot of questions about, well, how do you suggest I talk to my manager? And what's too much? How many questions can I ask? And so we had a lot of conversation, and some of that we put into communication templates that we sent to the interns, and some of that we put into the onboarding guide for the managers as well, on how to get them adjusted to the work environment.
Right. And to piggyback on that, I think, we had obviously never had virtual or remote workers at all at Discover Lehigh Valley. We always were in the office. And so this was a totally new experience for all of us, all the managers and all my colleagues. And so I think we were more anxious about it than the intern. He was like, yeah, this is no problem. He's very accustomed to having a remote experience and way better at technology than all of us. And so, I think we in our heads were bugging out about it, but he was very, very flexible, very easy to mold into what we needed. And, I tried to expose him to our other coworkers as much as possible, but I pretty much filtered any requests or anything to him. But I didn't want it to just go that way. And so I very much encouraged him to communicate with whoever requested the project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's a great point, because I think with our interns too, they were so flexible and they were so willing to, ask questions, and they wanted this internship to work so badly that they were doing their best to be flexible.
I found that when I was going through the selection process with interns, and this was in March, and so March and April, and many of them, all their other internship opportunities had been canceled. And so they were just so thrilled to still be able to get some experience. And, I was more bummed out that I couldn't pay him, because I always prefer to pay interns, and, they were just thrilled to still have opportunity. So that was great to hear.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about troubleshooting as you're trying to support interns in onboarding and helping them to learn what the job and the tasks were? What problems came up, and then how did you resolve those issues?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So for me, getting him started, I started with the most basic tasks, the things that I knew he could handle. And maybe being in design, that's a little bit more apparent, because you have to apply to a job with a portfolio. So I can tell by his portfolio what he can and can't do, or where he's weaker and where he's stronger. And so I kind of tailored some of his beginning projects to things I knew he'd feel comfortable in, to get him confident. And then also just some no-brainer tasks like, okay, I need you to organize our photo library and use this kind of naming convention. And so that was the way that I got him started and got him feeling confident.
I would say from a systems standpoint, we had shipped laptops to everyone across the US, and we gave them very detailed instructions about how to set up their laptop, how to gain access to certain tools. We did have some questions about, well, this isn't loaded on my laptop. Can I download it? Am I allowed to download Zoom? Can I get access to this tool? So in the beginning, we had some of that. We had one intern that his camera didn't work on his laptop, so we made some adjustments for that. So real small things, but in general, we didn't really have a lot of systems issues, technical issues. I have great friends in the IT department, so I would contact them immediately. And we made some very quick arrangements for people, but we didn't really have significant issues. I would say some of it is just learning our business. So I would send the interns a link to our acronyms list. I would send them links to how to look up organizational structures. I would send them so much information so that it made it a little easier to transition in.
Thank you. And continuing on, still at that onboarding and the tasks and what the job looks like. Stacey, this one's for you.
Okay.
We'd love to hear more about the virtual onboarding guide that you have and that you've shared with your managers.
Yeah, sure. So I would say a good 2 or 3 pages of the onboarding guide was checklists for them. So we literally mapped out, here's how you order a laptop. This is the address that you're going to send it to. If your work requires them to look at a PNID and they need a large monitor to make it easier for them to review, order them a monitor. So we were very specific in the checklist about what they needed to do to ensure that they had the right access when they started, the right network connectivity, that they would connect with the intern on day one after they went through onboarding with me. So we were very specific with that checklist. And then I also reminded the managers, because some of them were new managers, some of our policies and guidelines about what the interns could and couldn't do, you know, the fact that we didn't want them to download Zoom on their laptops, the fact that, you know, we have a lot of policies in place and that we were going to offer a lot of activities and they would, you know, allow the interns to step away from some of the work to take part in some of the internship activities. So we really mapped out a complete checklist of certainly how do you order a laptop? How do you engage with the intern? And then some of the things that we were planning for this summer was also included in that onboarding guide.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nuts and bolts, how did you have enough locations or departments for each intern? So could you support, how did you support the number of interns that you had, and how long was each of those internship opportunities?
Yeah, so our internships are 11 weeks in length. We do have a co-op program as well, and so we're flexible with the school in terms of how long their assignments are. But for the summer interns, they are 11 weeks. We had plenty of work for the interns. So we had managers that even after we were onboarding, they still came back to me and said, are there any more interns? So we had plenty of work and plenty of interested managers. So I was very fortunate that I didn't have to go out and find positions, but our senior leaders are very committed to this program and they would have identified other opportunities if needed.
How about you, Alyssa?
So our internship was approximately, it was probably about 10 weeks. And we honestly were going to have it a little bit longer, but as the pandemic evolved, we kind of pushed our start date a little bit just because we were still figuring out, were we going to go back to the office? How, or would we still be virtual by the time the internship started? And so about 10 weeks, and then, you know, now we're able to continue it. And so he just started again yesterday and he'll go through December. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
Wonderful. Thinking about interns and the interview process, were there any interview preps afforded before the internship? This individual has found that high schoolers are not really ready for the internship experience.
I would say from an Air Products standpoint, we do participate in a lot of local events and we provide guidance to students. We also participate in mock interviews to provide guidance in that manner as well. We try to really engage with the schools to provide as much insight as we can into the interviewing process. I would say those interns that we had interviewed for our program, they may have participated in the mock interviews in the past. I'm not sure, but we certainly do take part in things like that.
Wonderful. check if this one's correct. We do have a question. I want to make sure that I'm framing it correctly. The question is, your partnership with NACE is awesome. NACE being the National Association for Colleges and Employers. What suggestions would you give to higher ed seeking to set up a virtual internship program? So are you saying, just to confirm, are you saying within higher ed to set up that program for positions within that post-secondary institution, having those internships there? Andrea, if you can follow back with me on that one. And I'm going to go back to another question while we're waiting. For companies that are reluctant to take on students due to so many of their employees already being remote, do you have tips to encourage those employers to still take interns on?
I can take that one first. So I think the key for us is that we know that our co-op and intern program is a really great way for the students to get to know us and for us to get to know them. And we really like to hire out of our intern pool for full time. So we knew for us that is critical for us. And because we still had a lot of work to offer, we felt it was really not a case of whether we weren't going to move forward, it was just how we were going to move forward. So I think for us, we knew that we really needed to have the students come from a workload standpoint to give them the opportunity and the experience, and then for us to think longer term.
Yeah, for us, that the workload, you know, really made it essential that we keep the internship program going. You know, obviously we faced some layoffs due to COVID, and you know, having that intern and having it be virtual wasn't too hard of a sell, because we were all going to be virtual anyway. I was going to be the point of contact for it. So, you know, I think we all just adapted as well as we could in the past couple months, and you know, thankfully worked out well.
And back to the previous question, yes, the question is thinking about suggestions for higher ed institutions themselves, our college and universities, encouraging them to also set up virtual internship programs. What suggestions might you have for higher ed to have programs within their own institutions?
I think the key factor is to ensure that you have a good support system. So have a manager that's very engaged, maybe have a student that could be a mentor for that student, and ensure that the quality of work is really good, so that not only are you getting a good experience and you're offering a good experience, but the student's feeling really good about it, because, you know, they all want to provide value. They want to all feel as though, you know, what they're doing is going to provide value to the school, to a company. So I think those are the key factors. So I think setting up that system and the type of work will be key.
Well, we'll see if that was actually the close of the current questions listed. We'll give another couple of seconds. If any questions are popping up in your brain, please feel free to type them in. But another thought that I'd like to mention, again, I mentioned it at the beginning, is we have created collaboratively with the career development professionals at all 11 colleges and universities what we're calling an internship toolkit. And again, that's a guide with how-to information from setting up an internship program to onboarding, to what to do with your interns over the first couple of weeks. And a lot of what was shared here today, but really at that basic how-to guide level. That information is hopefully something that can be of help to you as an employer. Those of you participating in the webinar today, if you're really looking for a place to start, there's a brief section on remote internships and micro internships as well. So just a place to look for some of that information. And again, this was largely borrowed through some information by NACE, Parker Dewey. Our colleges and universities contributed heavily in compiling this guide from their own work and their own guides. But we really wanted to make sure that there was something that could be a regional support as well. And then in addition to that, those of you looking for the contacts at all of those schools and universities. There's a directory also within this toolkit that if you want to call or email any of our great colleges and universities, all of their contact information, their Handshake or Simplicity, career platforms are all listed there. The majors which offer internships are listed there, or the contact person of who you can reach out to. So we're hoping to really support and build that bridge between the colleges and universities and employers who are looking to engage with interns or engage increasingly with interns. And again, that'll be on LVEDC's website and likely shared out later this week yet. Wonderful. Well, I think that we've come to a close. So I just wanted to take a final moment to thank both you, Stacey and Alyssa, for your time and your information and just sharing your experiences today. It was very, very insightful on hearing about managing and creating and building and maintaining remote internships. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Highmark Blue Shield, East Stroudsburg University, Muhlenberg College, Northampton Community College, and Penn State Lehigh Valley for your support. To those of you who joined us this morning, thank you for spending time with us today. We hope that you've gained valuable ideas that you can move forward with at your businesses to continue as you engage with interns in these remote structures. We know that your interns may be your employees in the future, and they're a critical part of your talent pipeline. If you're interested in learning more, please register. We do have another session next Thursday, also at 10 a.m. as a part of our second annual Lehigh Valley Internship Summit. This one, however, next week is going to be focused on attracting interns to your business. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, please definitely reach out to me via email. And thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.